this morning in terms of changing our schedule a little bit to have us just begin with fire and rescue at 11 instead of our original start time of 10. Just know that staff and the administration are working on rescheduling the Atlanta Police Department given the events of yesterday. I'm also joined by Howard Shook, who's Vice Chair of the Finance Executive Committee. To his right is Council President Doug Shipman. To his right, Councilmember Jason Dozier, and to his right, Councilmember Byron Amos. Shook, who's Vice Chair of the Finance Executive Committee. To his right is Council President Doug Shipman. To his right, Councilmember Jason Dozier, and to his right, Councilmember Byron Amos. I also see getting bagels are Council Members Matt Westmoreland and is that Dustin Hillis? And I'm sure we're going to be joined by other colleagues over the course of the morning. So with that, just a reminder of our schedule today. We're going to hear from Atlanta Fire and Rescue Department now, and then we're going to break for lunch, and then follow at 1 o'clock with Department of Corrections, Atlanta Citizens Review Board at 2:30, and then Department of Law at 3 o'clock. For those that are tuning in either via, online, the budget book and all presentations can be found under the proposed FY24 budget tab on the Finance Executive page of the City Council website. Colleagues, as a reminder, it will I'll give the department time to finish their presentation before taking questions. If you do want to make a comment or ask a question, just let me know. I'll start compiling a list. And with that, I'm going to turn the floor over to Chief Smith. I'll have you introduce your team and then walk us through your budget presentation today. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for having us today.
And real quickly, we've been joined by Councilmember Marcy Collier Overstreet. Thank you.
Good morning, and thank you for having us today, Councilmember Wong. It's my pleasure to be here today on behalf of the men and women of Atlanta Fire Rescue to present the proposed budget for fiscal year 2024. I will start on my right. Our Deputy Chief of EMS is Chief Royce Turner. Deputy Chief of Field Operations, Derek Harris. To my left, our PMO, our Business Manager, Ms. Shy Pickett-Harden. To her left is our Deputy Chief of Technical Services, Chief Alan Burton. And last and certainly not least, our Deputy Chief of Support Services, Stephen Hill. As I said, it's our pleasure to be here today, and I'd like to start by thanking the mayor and the administration, for proactively working with the Atlanta Fire Department to make sure that all of our needs will be met during the upcoming fiscal year. And I have been assured that if there are any shortfalls or discrepancies, feel free to bring them back and we can address those at any point in time. So that is good for us moving in the direction that we are going for the new fiscal year. We start with the One City, One Bright Future, just reaffirming the fact that Atlanta Fire Rescue is in full support of the mayor's vision of where the city is going. We are committed and we take the challenge to ensure that all of our efforts meet the need of the city of Atlanta as well as the aspirations of our current mayor. When we talk about the pillars that Mayor Dickens' administration has established, we want to reassure you that we will ensure that our operations on a day-to-day basis ensure that we have one safe city and that we are providing opportunities, i.e. through the hiring of city members. We will continue to build a city for the future through the fire department, and we will make sure that everything that we do is ethical and effective. Next, you will see our organizational structure, which identifies or shows you the 6 divisions of labor. Each of the deputies you see here is responsible for one of those divisions of labor, and we act as one unit providing services to the city of Atlanta. Next, you will see the highlights for fiscal year 2023. Which we are currently in. We're proud to share with you that we have a 10% reduction in calls for service in the downtown area. That is due to the efforts of our enhancing how we respond to EMS calls or how those calls are processed through E911, as well as looking at our false alarm calls and those being proactively addressed through our community risk reduction section. During the course of the year, we implemented EFD, which is a systematic process that goes through 911 that assures that all fire calls are handled in the same manner. And so that has led also to a more effective fire service for the city of Atlanta. Next, you will see that we have completed our programming development, and we are very excited about kicking off our EMS station before the end of this fiscal year, as well as the re-implementation of our rapid response units, which will not only serve the south side, but will serve the north side as well, bridging the gaps for EMS services as we reinvent how we respond to the city of Atlanta. As well as we are very happy about the procurement of a modular burn building, which is built out of Connex boxes, which allows us to continue to train our members out on the drill yard. And so it reduces the strain that we had, if you will, of taking our members outside of the city. However, this is a temporary fix, and we look forward to the new Public Safety Training Center so that we can enhance the training that we are doing for the members of Atlanta Fire Rescue. Next, you will see, thanks to the mayor's administration, we were able to close out our Mercer study pay increase recommendations 1 year early, and so we're very proud of that. As well as you will see infrastructure funding that was provided to us in the sum of $51.8 million. And I'm proud to say that all 4 stations that were listed, Station 30, Station 26, Station 31, and Station 25, they are all in the design phase, and so we will be meeting with the architects in the next week or two to determine exactly what those facilities will look like, so we're very happy to be moving on that. As well as the commitment we had to our fleet replacement plan. Somewhere in the sum of $6.8 million, all of those vehicles have been ordered, and we anticipate those to start arriving in June of this year, all the way up through October of this year. So we are very excited about getting those additions to our fleet. As well as we enhanced our community risk reduction section by adding a night unit. That unit will go out and provide code enforcement to the clubs and assist APD with code compliance for the city of Atlanta in the evenings and on the weekend. We're happy to share with you that we did a soft opening of our airport clinic. It is the first of its kind in the country, and we are looking to have our ribbon cutting scheduled, hopefully before the end of this fiscal year. However, it is providing services, and we are looking forward to the call reduction efforts that it will have on our responders out at the airport. We introduced during this period an initiative through EMS, which is called Right Site Health. It's a telemedicine initiative that allows us to reduce calls, if you will, or transfers to the hospital. Once we arrive on the scene and then we determine that they are non-emergent calls, then the individuals can be seen via iPad of some sort. They can see an ER doctor and they can be cleared right away. So we're looking in innovative ways to improve how we provide EMS services. As well as we implemented our electronic PCR, which, as well as telestaff, which is a staffing solution, which allows us to ensure that we have our trucks fully staffed on a regular basis without making a bunch of phone calls. That can be managed through the individual's smartphones, and we can ensure that the staffing is adequate on a day-to-day basis. During this period, we also maintained our accredited status with CIPSI, and we are looking forward and we are preparing for our next site visit, which is in calendar year 2024. And so we are our renewal efforts to include reassigning members down to public safety headquarters to assist us with the administrative pool of making sure that we maintain our accredited status. We opened a brand new fire station, 32, at the airport during this fiscal year, as well as we are elated about the opening of EMS Station 37 and 36. We are scheduled to get control of those buildings at the end of this month, and so we are looking forward to opening those stations very quickly. As well as we are proud of the fact that we have graduated 50 members from our recruit class this fiscal year, and we are continuing our hiring efforts, including looking in new areas as well as trying to ensure that we can reduce the hiring time, but we can increase our staffing. So we'll continue to address the staffing needs of Atlanta Fire Rescue. On the next slide, you will see a summary of our operational budget, in which you will see our proposed budget for this upcoming fiscal year is $109.4 million. That is not inclusive of the aviation division. You will see out to the right a breakdown of our total headcount, which will be, 951.33. That .33 is because we have a split funded position between downtown and aviation, and you will see the aviation total number of 260. On this slide, you will see the total funded headcount for Atlanta Fire Rescue is 1,003.33, and you will see the breakout of our funded versus unfunded positions. The unfunded positions will shift to funded based on our ability to fill the vacancies that we have in Atlanta Fire Rescue. So we are looking forward to, as I mentioned to you before, change our recruiting and our hiring strategies to ensure that we get the staffing that we need. You will see that our operating budget wholly increased by $1.9 million, and the drivers for that were key initiatives were to increase equipment or program changes. We are migrating to an electronic Knox box system or lock system throughout the city, as well as our technological initiatives. We have software licenses that we have to procure and maintain, such as Telestaff and Image-Trend, as well as we have an initiative where we are beginning to replace all of the life packs and AEDs for our EMS division for Atlanta Fire. On this page, you will see a breakout of the operational divisions of Atlanta Fire Rescue, as well as the breakout for the funding for budget are directly with our day-to-day operations for Atlanta Rescue, and you will see the total count that we are approved for our head count, which is 1211.33. We'll next look at our FY24 priorities, falling up under the subtitles of improvement of service, recruitment and hiring, and professional development. For improvement of services, we will continue our call reduction efforts, seeking ways to reduce the footprint or the calls that we run, realizing that the congestion in the city does not need to be increased by fire trucks running up and down the road. However, we will continue to meet the need. We are looking into technology such as preemptive traffic devices with a pilot going in Buckhead, as well as continuing our efforts of revising those calls in the CAD system that require how much equipment, and so we will look to determine what those needs are, and we will continue to address that. We will continue with our EMS efforts to include making sure that the city is equitably served as it relates to EMS. We will continue our efforts and our conversations about how do we put that second EMS station in the Buckhead community, ensuring that the city's needs are met holistically. We're very elated about our behavioral health and wellness initiative that was put forth by our HR Commissioner, Commissioner Smith. It will become a public safety wellness unit that will service police, fire, and corrections, as well as we are in the process of hiring a public safety medical director to meet the needs. As the lines of public safety continue to cross, we want to make sure that all services that we provide are under the direction of one medical director on behalf of the City of Atlanta. Next, we'll talk about our recruiting and hiring efforts, where we intend to enhance our recruiting efforts, where we will be targeting specific groups such as our partnership with APS to get members into Atlanta Fire Rescue to meet our vacancies, as well as we are ramping up our cadet and our student programs to support our Year of the Youth activities. You will see a summer cadet program coming very shortly, as well as CPR will be provided to the youth of the City of Atlanta, and we will continue to support the intern efforts of the City of Atlanta by providing opportunities for the youth of the city. And lastly, you will see professional development, which, as you know, is at the top of the plate for us. We have had some long years where we have not had promotional testing. Our goal is to make sure that the department now goes back into the required cycle of testing every 24 months to make sure that we provide those opportunities for the individuals that work within the department. We will also begin formalizing succession planning training to make sure that the individuals are prepared and equipped to go to the next level, whether it is a promotion or an appointment. And we will provide senior level training for the executive members of the department so that they can become more versed in the administrative aspects of Atlanta Fire Rescue. And with that, I am prepared to answer any questions you may have.
Very good. Thank you for the presentation, Chief. I want to quickly announce that we've been joined by Council members Jason Winston as well as Andrea L. Boone. Also, colleagues, we are on page 318 of the budget book. Go ahead and take questions. I see Mr. Hillis, followed by Mr. Dozier, and then Councilmember Overstreet Amos. Thank you. Hillis, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chairman Wan. Thank you, Chief Smith and your team for the presentation. First, I want to ask a few questions about your FY24 proposed program highlights. That's in our budget book. First is the one that states implement GIS to enhance fire hydrant database and partnership with watershed management.
Yes.
We've been talking about that for quite a few years, and I thought that was done. So what is the status of that?
So we are very close. That is a collaborative effort between us and Watershed. We've been working very closely to make sure that that system gives us what we need. As you know, historically, it was an antiquated system where it was pen to paper. And so now we're working to geocode the locations of all of the hydrants and have those in the system. And once we get those in the system, we'll be able to wrap that one up and say that it is complete.
Your partner department pulling their weight?
Oh, definitely.
Because their SLAs on that doesn't look very good, so that's why I ask, and I bring it up to Commissioner Browning every quarterly presentation. So it's another opportunity to do that here. So what's the timeline for finalization of that?
I would anticipate it will be done before the end of the summer.
Okay. Have they completed the spring hydrant checks yet?
Hydrant checks have been completed for spring, yes.
Tell me a little more about this bullet point, that's development of the AFRD 2025 to 2030 strategic plan. Who's going to be leading that? What all is that going to entail? Is that everything AFRD from apparatus to building replacements?
So we're still in the formative stages as to who is going to do it. We realize that any strategic plan that was created pre-pandemic is just that, pre-pandemic. And so we are going to make sure that this plan includes all of our capital as well as our infrastructure needs moving forward. And so we will be putting that out and getting a third-party vendor to come in and lead that process for us.
And is there, the goal would be to have that developed? And
the goal is to have that in place before the end of the year, calendar year.
Calendar year, okay.
Yes.
Enhance stations and facilities to address employee safety and quality of life concerns. I know a lot of these station replacements come from bonds, et cetera, but what is in this general fund budget specifically to assist with either renovation or station replacement?
Okay, so the station replacement and or renovation budget for Atlanta Fire will be, or it will reside in Dean's budget. But however, I did want to take this moment to thank each of you, council members, for the donation that you made to the Fire Foundation for infrastructure funding. We will make sure that that funding is used appropriately to meet the needs of the department. As you all know, that we have been in a position or a posture where we have struggled over the years with contracts and who can actually do the work. And so we'll utilize that to streamline and get the best services we can as quickly as possible, making those repairs. But we will continue to work with Dean to make sure that, one, that we do have a capital replacement plan in place. We do have a list of stations in priority order to replace them, and we are making sure that that list is in conjunction with the needs assessment study that was done, as well as we are looking at gaps across the city of Atlanta to determine where do we actually need additional stations, whether they be EMS or fire.
Could you send us an updated copy of that replacement plan?
Will do.
Staying on stations for a minute. Just want to get your overall thoughts on, I know turning these out is, as you said, on Deem. But as far as looking at the metro area, our station costs are far above our partner agencies. 22 is a poster child for that, which we're still waiting on to get built. DeKalb County, Sandy Springs, Cobb County, they're building similar stations, 3 base stations, community rooms. I've seen one that even has a training tower on it for $5.5, $7, $8 million. So how are you working with Deem and the administration to bring those costs down for Atlanta? Because I don't think it's a cost issue. It's just we're getting gouged issue by these contractors.
Right. I think some of it is actually being gouged, but some of it is the cost of construction in the city of Atlanta. I don't think we are being fair when we compare what the cost is in another jurisdiction versus the city of Atlanta, because a lot of times we don't really see the true cost of the build. You'll see a number that may come out in a news article, but that may not necessarily be the cost, because the cost may be associated for us, may be associated to lead requirements or in-city requirements, taxes, things of that nature. But Deem is moving proactively towards ensuring that we have contractors on board and that there is a pricing schedule to make sure that they don't go outside of the bounds and start charging us overly in those areas.
Understood. When Atlanta professional firefighters spoke yesterday at the 4 union hearings we had, their top concerns were equipment. We, of course, know the apparatus is the largest part of that, but also, and I believe this was discussed when a number of us were out at the training academy, but the time has come, or I guess probably passed, for AFRD to purchase new SCBAs and cardiac monitors. So are those addressed in this budget? I know there were some discussions about, it's a large cost, so, and you want to roll these out all at the same time, so do we buy half of them this year, hold them, and then buy the next half next year? Where are we with both of those purchases?
So we have a replacement strategy, and I've had deliberate conversations with the administration, and they have assured that they will meet all of the capital needs for Atlanta Rescue. I've had meetings with our CFO, Bala, about meeting the costs, and so at the top of the list are replacing the BAs, replacing the AEDs and the life packs, as well as fleet replacement strategy. And so while you may not see that capital right here in the budget, I have commitments to ensure that there will be financial instruments to cover those costs for Atlanta Fire Rescue.
What is the cost for SCBAs and the?
The SCBAs are roughly $6 million. The replacement.
For the whole
And we have
fleet.
replacement strategies for each.
And then
The BAs are, excuse me, the AEDs are $2 million.
$2 million?
Yes.
We won't even talk about fleet, but that's many millions. But done for now, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Councilmember Dozier, followed by Overstreet.
Thank you, Chair Wan, and thank you, Chief, and to the rest of our AFRD team. I said this yesterday, and I'll say it again. I appreciate everything y'all do for our city and what y'all have done for our constituents and our residents. The amount of work that goes into your day-to-day operations goes unsung. I know typically y'all are the first to respond even before police or even Grady is able to get on the scene because y'all are so good at what you do. Just my question is pretty quick, just with regards to the recruitment efforts that y'all are having with APS. I was just curious, typically for a fire recruit, how old is someone that typically comes to you all for training, and how, and if there's any, I would think it would be typically someone on the older side, like in the early 20s, mid-20s, versus maybe an 18, 19-year-old, but I just wanted you to shed some light on that for my awareness.
So the age when we can get you is 18, and you have to have a high school diploma. However, once you do pass the physical test and go through the background, then it is paid training. From that point, you do not have to have any skill sets coming to the door. We will teach you everything you need to know.
But typically, is that the age range y'all see with recruits? Is that 18 and 19 range?
So historically, we see anywhere from 21 to 22. But what we realize is that there is an untapped market in APS. We realize that there will be really no more 30-year employees, if you will, but we realize that the next long-term employee is going to come from those people that grew up watching the fire trucks run up and down the road. And so we're committed to giving them an opportunity to come on to the department.
And how long has that relationship been in place and what have y'all seen from that relationship so far?
Unofficially, the relationship has been in place for about a year. But now we're starting to migrate into the official space, and we are targeting and going out to schools in the school system, having those sit-down conversations with the individuals, taking the executive staff out, and having conversations with the kids about the opportunities that employment with the city will provide.
Okay. Just curious, I know it might have been this forum last year where y'all were discussing implementing this program in the first place. I know other departments are also looking at recruitment efforts with APS, and it's great to see that partnership thrive, and just let us know what we can do to help support that going forward. So,
Thank you, will do.
Mr. Chair, I yield.
Thank you. Councilmember Overstreet, followed by Amos.
Thank you, Chair Juan, and thank you very much to AFRD for coming to present today. So no question, just making sure that you all understand how much I support you. I am making it my duty to make sure that everyone knows that you all are an integral part of public safety, so everybody can stop vilifying public safety, because what you do is vital and crucial to the quality of life of City of Atlanta. And I want to make sure that you all have everything that you need, so much so that I brought Deem into my office to make sure that on top of the discretionary funding that I pledged to the foundation, I've also looked at Station 5 to make sure that we're doing some things there with my, believe it's horizontal discretionary, to shore up a few things there. I truly support the work that you do. I know that we wouldn't be a safe and thriving Atlanta without our fire department. I feel certified because I came and put on, those, put on all of the things that you all have to wear every day in the roles that you play around the city, and it was absolutely no joke. But it was so good to see how we're spending our money and where we could spend more money, and why. And so I just applaud you for the work that you do. I just want to continue to make sure that everyone knows that we want you all, our Atlanta Fire and Rescue Department, to be in the best of class facilities and have the best in class training. And I'm looking forward to seeing you in that and at our training, our new training center. So you have a supporter here.
Thank you so much for supporting us always.
All right, Councilmember Amos, followed by Hillis again.
Yes, sir. I guess I got to start with an apology to my colleague here. I think it was Tuesday or Wednesday, half of this table and half of the people outside was actually at Washington High with a truck, meeting with the students, talking to the students, getting them out the building, engaging, interacting. Actually introduced one young man to Chief that wanted to be a firefighter and didn't know where to start. I know you was dealing with some family issues Monday and just forgot to tell you, but I should have. But everything you asked about, yes, they're doing it hands-on, so I want to apologize for that. Chief, normally we get budgets and we see a lot of increases. Your budget has a lot of decreases. That concerns me because I don't want us to run so lean to where when you actually need it, you come back and we looking at you like you didn't ask for it earlier. But I appreciate what you're doing. I always got to mention 1s, 16s, and 11s because they service District 3. But where in this budget is reflected the money for the recruiting, and more importantly, the programming, as we talked about for our younger APS students or younger citizens in the city of Atlanta? Where is it reflected in the budget here?
It will fall up under the other, which is the 10 million, which is our day-to-day. We do not have the recruiting effort broken out into its separate space. It is a roll-up. And so what that does is it allows us to increase it if we have to. And so it's streamlined, if you will.
Okay.
And so the money is there to do
Okay.
what we need to do.
Thank you. And last question, just for clarity. Upkeep money and the money for our buildings is, you say actually is in Dean's budget?
It's in Dean's budget, yes.
Okay, and is it a line item in the budget or is just lumped in there somewhere? I know you probably don't because it's their budget.
Yeah, I haven't had a chance to look at their budget yet.
Okay, just want to know where we need to do the increases.
Yeah,
Okay,
they do have facilities.
all right, thank you.
Actually, Mr. Amos, that's a good question. Let's go ahead and send a signal to Deem that when they come and present, that to the extent that they can break out the department investments, that'd be helpful. So, Ms. Lindo, if you'll note that. All right, Councilmember Hillis, followed by Shook, and we've been joined by Councilmember Lewis into the list, and then Boone following him. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Chief. Again, had one remaining question I was thinking about yesterday. When you all respond to structure fires, I don't know the exact percentage, but I say it's a majority, are open vacant structures, or should be vacant, but sometimes they have unhoused individuals that have sought refuge in them. Do you all keep track of the number of those structure fires that you all respond to?
As it relates to whether they were vacant or not?
Yes.
Or should they have been inhabited or not?
Yes.
So that is included in our report. We don't have necessarily a number to say this is how many we responded to, but we can easily get that number through our reporting system, if you'd like to see that number.
Yeah, I would like to see that number, and we'll just like to see an overall better action plan, and not just on you all, but also APD's code enforcement section, because, you know, these are putting our firefighters' lives at risk, you know, roof collapses, falling through floors, et cetera. And, you know, whenever one happens in my district, I go out and check it out, and a number of times there's not even a code complaint on it. If it is, it's 3 years old. And, you know, I know y'all have what I would consider a high vacancy rate, but if you look at the code enforcement inspectors within APD, their vacancy rate is about 72% right now. They're supposed to have 25 inspectors, and I think they have 7 now, since another resignation, I think, happened this week or last. So we'd just like to see a better coordination between you all and APD's code enforcement efforts and tracking those. I know it's probably been a decade, but you all used to have a program where you all would go around and inspect and look for properties and placard them and report them to code enforcement.
And we still do.
Okay. I just haven't seen any of those placards in a while. But, yeah, if you could just give me that data and any details of you all's current coordination with APD code enforcement to get these vacant structures down.
Okay, will do.
Thank you.
All right, Councilmember Shook, then Lewis.
I want to start by thanking you and your team for your involvement in the discussions currently underway about filling that northeast gap, which is something we've all worked on over a really long time. Looking forward to bringing that to fruition, so thank you. I know that your department has the opportunity to defray or recover some cleanup costs. Example, if a tanker truck spills noxious chemicals in the right-of-way, you can go after them. How often does that happen, if ever?
So it has not happened very frequently. We're in the process now with procurement, with trying to get a cost recovery vendor in place, hard collections, soft collections, things of that nature. And so once we get that in place, we'll be able to give you some data about how we get that in and how frequently we get that in.
Okay.
But
And,
we do realize that gap, and we're trying to cover it.
I imagine that might be something of an opportunity there. So I noticed that, and you have stated in your presentation, that calls for service have declined over a period of years where our population has grown robustly. And I'd like to know just why you think that is, and is that a trend that other departments have comparably populated cities?
So it went down actually because we actually had our EMS team to go up to 911, and they started looking through the call types. And so collaboratively between them and the ambulance service, they determined that some of the calls that we were going on, fire was actually not needed. In addition to that, there were some instances where we were sending too much equipment. And so what they did was revise the call schedule to see when and where we go and where we are needed.
And then a question around your staffing. The administration and council in the past have done what we could to enhance pay significantly. And so do you know off the top of your head what your prior year's numbers look like in terms of people leaving the department versus new hires? And have you seen the pay increases have the benefits of, say, anyone who left for greener pastures coming back? Or what does that look like?
So those numbers have kind of been difficult to follow a trend just based on that pandemic space. But what we do know is that the attrition that we saw, it was projected for the most part, with the exception of those who quit during the pandemic because of the tenure of the employees. So we were prepared for those. And so what you will see is some net negatives over the last 2 years. One, because of the number of people we were hiring and the length of time that it takes to train. But we have continuously hired. And so what we are looking to do is change that space. In fact, our maximum number in training went to 105, and we are now looking to increase it to 120. Prior to that, the historicals of hiring, we were hiring 2 classes a year on average, which is 25 to 30 people. And so we have essentially doubled that number, and so you will begin to see over time that number will start to shift. We're just hitting a space that was impacted by the early out of '92, where we had a lot of people that came on and that were hired, and so now we're feeling that impact as well.
All right.
But the hiring efforts are meeting the need. We're just looking to ramp up the number to get more people in the door. So we're looking at solutions like trying to bring on groups that are all actually already EMTs, because the medical training is already taking the longest amount of time. And so if we can get a class of 30 people, if you say are already EMTs, then we can just send them through fire school and get them to the field. And so we're looking at alternative methods of getting people in the gates a lot quicker.
And then lastly, I believe there was something in your presentation about a desire to explore ways to modify your hiring standards or qualifications. Is there a way to do that without significantly impacting who you end up with?
So what we were looking at is the processing time. The average processing time through HR for bringing a civilian employee on is roughly 30 days. That hiring process for Atlanta Fire right now is about 45. And so we're looking at figuring out how can we get that number down closer to 30 and trying to figure out what's slowing it down.
Okay, so it's a timing schedule. It's not a question of modifying qualifications.
Right.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you for yesterday and every day.
Thank you.
All right, Councilmember Boone, followed by President Shipman.
Thank you, Chief, and thank you to this team and to everyone in the back. Thank you all for what you do. Can you all stand up so we can see you? Thank you. What an amazing work that you all do for the citizens of Atlanta. True diligent public servants. Whenever we call, you all are there on the ground, replacing thousands of smoke detectors all across Atlanta, not just for the seniors, but you all are saving lives. So I want to thank you for fire prevention. You all have specialized in fire prevention. And what you all have done for our brother and friend Mark Quick, I don't know any other department that would have wrapped their arms around their own like you all did. So we want to be here for you all. Please tell us what you need. Tell us what you need, because you are essential to the fabric of this city. That's all I want to do is thank you all. Keep those educational brochures going in the schools. You all were at a big senior event yesterday at the C.T. Martin Center, working with those seniors. That is really, really important. Again, thank you, and let us know what you need. We are so proud of you all, and that wonderful breakfast you all had was unbelievable. Thank you.
Thank you for your support, always.
President Shipman, followed by Councilmember Lewis.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you all for what you do and for the presentation today. I just had two quick questions. On page 4, talking about the personnel budget and the funded versus unfunded. Last year, when you were here and other departments were here, there was a lot of discussion about the labor market, tough hiring, et cetera. I'm wondering if you see the market right now as have loosened up to the point that if you had more funding, you could hire more, or do you still feel like that your ability to hire, train, and get folks into the department is still constrained by the labor market?
Oh, definitely. The ability to hire and train is the driver behind it.
Okay. So it's not necessarily the funding, it's still the kind of labor supply issue.
Right. We're strapped at training.
Got it.
We just can't get them through that.
And it may be related to my second question, which is, I noticed that in the detailed budget, the overtime line item has gone significantly higher. In fact, the overall budget, when you combine both of your funding sources, is up about 2.5%, not just the general fund, but general fund and airport. But the overtime line's up 16%. Can you just talk a little bit about that? And also, how can we get to a position where it's not as much a necessity in the way that you're staffing?
So the way our working structure is that overtime is always going to be a factor.
Yep.
Until we get to full staffing. So that's going to be the number one driver. How do we get to full staffing? The reality of it is, with the structure of hiring, training to get people to the station, it roughly takes anywhere from 14 to 16 months before you impact our staffing. And so it's going to take a few years to fill those vacancies and get to that staffing space. What we are doing is, one of the initiatives is through the recapture program. We're allowing some individuals to come back because what we've found is that we have a large number of members because of the overtime, and I'm sure you've heard it from the labor organizations. They feel like they're being required to work. And so we feel like the recapture program will lighten that load, as well as will manage that overtime premium space, which will allow us to get that number down. And so we're trying to determine also what is a manageable number for overtime, looking at what is the relief factor.
Okay. So it really is related to the labor issue, which is really then related back to the ability to train and get folks up to speed.
Exactly.
Got it. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Appreciate it.
Councilmember Lewis.
And thank you, President, for asking that question. I was actually going to stick around there. Thank you, Mr. Smith. I don't know how you're able to be at the Senior Center in District 10 and at the same time at District 12 at a Mother's Day event. So I want to say I appreciate you for opening up this week, and the firefighters for being on the ground, for serving folks at Solomon's Temple to start this week off for Mother's Day. I appreciate you for that. Also for the numerous amount of fire recruits that you allow to actually come out and do our food giveaways, because we know without the young bodies, we can't do it. Like my first food giveaway, just looking at the folks, we just didn't have the staff. We didn't have the capacity. So I want to say I appreciate you for doing that, and we need to keep it going because we don't have the capacity for that.
Definitely.
In your growth, I think that the mayor was conservative with his budget this year. And I think he was conservative with looking at the city. The city just grew. And I think looking at the growth over the next 2 years, this year and next year, we're still growing. We're number one place for people to come to. That ain't 8 years straight. That's not going anywhere. And so do you think that you have enough in here to continue the excellent service that you're doing? Do you think there's enough growth in here for you with the districts going upwards now, right? We have a lot of new people coming into the city. We think about District 12 where we have the most land in the city, but the least amount of people. But people are coming now because all these new affordable housings are now opening up. So do you think that this budget is going to have you strong enough in areas when we have 1,000 new people moving in 1 year?
So I can answer that question by saying, yes, I believe that the budget will meet the needs for Atlanta Fire Rescue for this fiscal year. I say that there is some strategic planning that has to be done to determine where the department is going to meet the needs of the city. It's not going to happen overnight. But based on this administration and the direct conversations that we're having, they're more than willing to help us meet the needs of Atlanta Fire Rescue moving into the future. As I stated, the capital initiatives, while they're not directly in the budget, we've had the conversations and we have the commitment to develop the funding to get what we need. And so they are very attentive to listening to what does the department need to be the best we can be. And I'm confident we will get there.
Okay, and I also want to say thank you to the firefighters who are in my district and all the firefighters all over the city of Atlanta. I know that this council, we showed our commitment to fire by showing when we had discretionary funding where we put our money where our mouth was. And to fix up a fire station in District 12 is what I am committed to doing. So I appreciate you for your service. I know you're doing way more than just fighting fires. I know you're actually fighting crime. Yesterday, I know you helped help secure so many Atlantans yesterday. So I appreciate you for your service, and I know you got good leadership coming under you. I just hope that you have enough money for what's about to hit you over the next year. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, I have a question, but I'm going to turn, CFO Bala wanted to add a little more context around the overtime.
Yeah, I just wanted to add a little bit more context with regards to the overtime budget increasing. So that line item is aligned to the Department of Aviation's contribution to fire rescue. So, of course, as the airport has been ramping back up and getting a full operational needs, as well as the additional facilities that have been equipped at the airport, there's been more need to shore up the overtime commitments at the Hartsfield-Jackson.
Thank you. Yesterday when well, first let me echo the appreciation. I made a comment yesterday during the firefighter union comment. I really feel like your station folks do such an amazing job building relationships in the immediate community where they are located. I mean, the 29 and 19, the neighborhoods around are just adore the folks there. So I think that is a good, has been a really solid indicator of how engaged y'all are with the community. One of the conversations we had yesterday had to do with, we've talked a lot about the hiring and recruiting, but they also signaled that it's retention, that kind of the mid-tenure folks, once you hit 5 years, a little before that, a little after, there's concern there about losing those folks, partly because of pension, partly because of salary, the way it's structured. I just wanted to give you a chance to reflect on that and comment if you're seeing the same thing, or if there are strategies that we can talk about to shore that up as well.
Right. So what you will see is a lot of the retention challenges, believe it or not, they're global, if you will. What we have seen is that the morale has been down in the retention space also because of our lack of testing over the years. Okay. And so if you don't provide those opportunities, then people tend to lose focus and lose sight. And so our commitment is we gave our first captains and lieutenants test at the end of last calendar year. It was the first one we'd had in 6 years. We are now in the process of giving our sergeant's exam, and we're committed to getting back into that 24-month cycle to give our members the opportunity to promote up in the organization.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I think, there's one strategy, and that's just salary. Just, you stay in the same position, but you're just making more. But I hear what you're saying, that the other is also you keep moving up, and you get increases as you're moving up the food chain. So, okay, that's helpful. It sounds like this is a challenge all departments are having, so it's not just y'all so I think it is think that we're going to have to think about as a city is like we're spending all this effort recruiting folks and getting them in the door, and I mean, you've already expressed your challenges there, but then if we've gone to all that trouble to get them in, then we got to make sure that we're doing right by them as they continue on their career with the city of Atlanta. Any other questions? Mr. Amos.
I'm glad you brought up the promotional and the retention, because speaking to one of the firefighters who is helping me on an issue, or helping them on an issue, he did state that he just became lieutenant, and we got into the conversation about the test not being taken. I think you said 6 years. Did I hear that right, Chief?
Yes, sir.
So hopefully somewhere in that budget, that 24-month cycle you want to get to is baked in so we can ensure we have the funds. Last but not least, like I said yesterday, every opportunity I get, I'm going to mention the name of Stephen Solomon. Until we get that memorial built in Cook Park, I will keep saying his name, and to ensure you guys that we are working on it. And I am going on a limb to say that we will get it done this year. So like I said yesterday, if I'm in front of you guys, I want his brothers and sisters to know we're working on it.
Thank you.
All right, if there are no other questions, I want to thank Chief and your team for a really great presentation. It was brief and it allowed us to ask a lot of really good kind of policy questions. Thank you again for your service and the folks in the back. We appreciate y'all every day. Keep up the good work, and as Councilmember Boone said, whatever we can do to help y'all, please let us know. So with that, this session stands adjourned. We'll break for lunch. We'll then reconvene at 1 o'clock with Department of Corrections, and we'll see y'all then. Thank you.
Thank you.